a little behind, to say the least. So I didn't know what I was doing, but if you just take the skills that you do know, work through it, it really prepared me for what I can expect to go through in later years and how I can apply these same skills in the future. So basically the biggest thing that's helped me to create a path for myself is to go into the things that I already know I'm interested in, but keep my mind open to what I may be interested in.
So for me, early on, I always knew that I wanted to do medicine, and I came into high school with the wrong mindset that I would just join science clubs, I'd focus only on my science classes, and then when I was there, I have an older brother, and then he dragged me to the clubs he was part of, and two clubs that I still do to this day are Model Congress and Debate Team. And when I came into high school, I had to, like I said, it was a mistake thinking that I would only focus on this one area. And then when I came to these two clubs, I really ended up loving, so if you take Model Congress, where you construct a bill similar to real Congress, except we actually get things done. We constructed bills, we argued, we negotiated, we made amendments, and what I really loved was going to all these different colleges, meeting new people, and just the idea of building your communication skills, which honestly, coming to freshman year, I had no idea how to give a speech, how to basically get my points across. And what happened was that with clubs like Model Congress and Debate Team, I ended up developing these communication skills and really developing skills that you need in the real world.
Now, Anish, we're going to stay with you real quick. I see that you have taken part in the job shadowing program that Trumbull High School offers here. Can you tell us a little bit about that program and your experiences in it?
Yeah, so last year with a couple of the teachers that do it, we took trips to St. Vincent's Hospital where we met some volunteers there, and they were able to take us kind of on rounds throughout the hospital, and we really saw some really cool stuff. And what helped me realize is that yes, you can want to help people and you can love the science, but at the end of the day, without trying to be in that setting and volunteering at a hospital, you never know if medicine's right for you. And on top of the job shadowing, I also volunteer at the hospital, and one of the things I saw was that I wanted to focus on science, but I also realized like the amount of work and how much you need to love what you do and how much you need to put in just to be productive in what you do. Like, for example, I saw a residency student that just finished a 72-hour shift, and he had to go back to med school. And what I realized is that this person really loves what he does, and he really wants to help people. And as all the speakers have brought up today, I think what you really have to take away from this is that you need to pick what you want to do, you need to put some work into it and develop those skills you're going to need in life.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the different types of clubs and the programs here. Phil, we'll come to you first because I know that you are currently working on an apprenticeship with your dad who owns his own business. Were there any of the clubs or programs here that you got yourself involved in that take away from the electrical side of the aspect, but more the business side that kind of helped you think about, so someday your dad's going to retire and your name might be on the marquee, so anything that we did here that might help you?
Yeah. I think Trumbull High School here offers a wide range of business classes, and I think I've taken almost every single one of them. The most influential, I would say, would have to be Mr. Manuel's entrepreneurship class. A little bit of background about that is it's a class that you learn about owning a business and what a business is, but also the other half of the class is electing a president, a vice president of a company that the class makes itself, and you try to make a product and you promote it. So I was elected class president by my peers, and what you do is you come up with an idea to sell to the Trumbull High student body, whether it's a t-shirt, a sticker, a bat, whatever it may be, and that class decides on what the product's going to look like. They vote on it, they have to decide, and then every single person in that class comes up with a real actual money, and they have to fund the project and get it started. And the whole idea is to go and sell the product around. Everyone's responsible for what they sell, so everyone's held accountable, and whatever money you make, it actually goes back into your pocket. It's a business. So me being class president, I had to oversee everybody. I had to, have the responsibility of making sure stuff was getting done correctly. People were selling the products. They were handling the money correctly. And kind of everyone was always on the same, had the same goal, which was good. And I think that, hopefully one day I'll take over my father's company, and just that small experience on a smaller scale, just giving me a wide, a huge, what my dad does every single day with bigger, kind of grander scale, really, taught me how much hard work it takes. And a couple of the classes, I've taken communications, which is great, speaking in front of people, learning how to communicate, and leadership, how to be a leader, just, speaking what's right, and just taking away, and just being the best person you can be. So I think the business, classes here are great if you can get involved, and that's the path that you want to take, and you'll definitely take something away from every single class.
Phil, do you remember what the item was that you created and sold?
Yeah, I remember. It was the we sold two products actually. We sold the Trumbull High School Black Hole T-shirt. For those of you who don't know, the Black Hole is the student crowd section here. This shirt's kind of weak. I don't want to say anything, but and we sold a Trumbull High School sticker. That goes in your car. And what I also failed to mention was also when you come up with the product name, you actually have to go in front of the president and the vice president, have to go in front of the principal, who is Mr. Garino, and you actually have to come up with a business plan on why the product, kind of like if you're going to a board member in a real company, and why this product should be sold here, what's the benefits of it, what does it do, to the faculty, to the students, and just to the whole attitude of Trumbull High School. So,
thanks, Phil. Freddie, moving over to you, sir. So tell us a little bit about your involvement in other programs or other clubs. We know you were the president last year, so has that in any way helped shape your decisions or why you were here? And what other clubs and programs did you do while you were here?
It absolutely shaped my career. I had the great opportunity to serve as president both at Trumbull High School as well as the Agri-Science and Biotech program, which I think is invaluable to the school. I headed up the swim team as captain my senior year, but I think one of the highlights of my Trumbull High School career was the We the People class in my senior year with Miss Boland. That's a course that exposed me to so many of the things that I've used even in just my first semester of college, in resume building, in interview processes, in public speaking. I mean, we were seniors in high school sitting at one of the top levels of a New York City law firm, one of the top law firms in the state, drafting legal arguments, talking about the Constitution, arguing back and forth. And that was one of the first times in my high school career that I felt treated as an adult and as an individual. The teachers do a great job of that here, but actually to go into the real world and speak with lawyers for hours and hours and hours about these arguments and how they felt about them and how to make a political argument about something. It was really, really impressive. I know that going to a school, you can end up with all these very impressive people. But at the end of the day, you can have a great SAT score, you can have a great GPA, but if you can't sit down with another adult and take an interview appropriately or throw together a resume in a couple hours, I just don't see how you can get more valuable than that. The We the People program also taught me how to back up any of my arguments with facts and with conviction. When we were in D.C. for nationals, we were being questioned by a Supreme Court justice from the state of Arizona, and she was not that nice, I'll be honest. She was very serious. But things like that, and putting you on the spot and exposing you to things that many adults don't even get, is something that I think is very unique to Cornell at the college level, and extremely unique to Trumbull High School. I don't think I would have gotten where I am today without these opportunities in high school, let alone knowing that they exist in the first place. So thank you, Ms. Boland, and thank you, Trumbull High School, for everything that you've exposed us to and given us the ability to partake in.
Okay. Now, Nicole, I know this because of some of the conversations we've had since you've graduated, but the criminal aspect of what you learned here doing honors justice in law and then also mock trial, have you seen any correlations between that and the major that you selected at South Carolina? And do you see it helping push you towards your ultimate goal, which I know is law school?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just so happens that in the Honors College at the University of South Carolina, they have a lot of specialized individual classes that professors who specialize in different areas of law or anything, they just decide to teach a class. There are classes from, the legislative process where you practice drafting bills, where you meet with congressmen, to psychology of the zombie apocalypse, that's a class, and anything in between. I'm taking a class on game theory next semester. And I've gotten to take a lot of classes, on criminal law, and there have been a lot of parallels in what we learn there. And of course, with doing mock trial, I actually would not be who I am today without starting here and doing mock trial here, not just in terms of, the skills that were learned that have been able to help me through my college career in terms of law, public speaking, writing, but also just in terms of leadership. I did not know how to be a leader when I started at Trumbull mock trial, and this is how I learned how to be a leader and how to work on a team in an activity that typically has a lot of type A personalities, and that can sometimes make teamwork a little hard. So that's a really, really valuable skill for going into the workforce. And also just sort of the networking opportunities that were present through mock trial. And kind of like with the situation of being in DC and being in a courthouse, I mean, the amount of time I spent in a courtroom in my high school career was huge. I mean, when we went to the Empire competition, the New York State Court, Federal Courthouse?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And these are real attorneys and lawyers judging you and giving you advice about not just how to present yourself in a courtroom, but how you should conduct yourself, how you should go about your career. And I mean, those networking opportunities have actually carried into South Carolina. I had a judge at high school nationals that recognized me in South Carolina and came up and started talking to me at a competition down there. There was another judge at a different competition down in North Carolina at Elon University. I was chatting with him afterwards. I said that he was a high school mock trial coach in addition to being involved at the college level. I said I did high school mock trial. He said, where? I said, Connecticut. He said, oh, you must be from Trumbull. Let Mr. August know that, nationally known. So that, the skills that I gained from participating in mock trial and being a part of that justice and law class, aside from just, knowing the rules of evidence, which talk to a lot of law students, that's a really useful thing to know in going to law school because everyone has to take evidence. They've really been invaluable in terms of how I lead the program that I'm a part of now, because my program does not have a Mr. August. We're entirely student run. Our coach advisors only help in the performance aspect, not the leadership. So those skills have really propelled me forward on the path that I'm on now, and have been really helpful in the internship applications in the internships I've already held in the professional world and the applications that I'm filling out now.
Okay, back to the current Trumbull High School students. We'll start with Emily. Are you involved in any programs or clubs here that have helped you push forward?
I participate in the Kids for Kids Club and the Connections Club here at Trumbull High. And in the Kids for Kids Club, we work with students at Trumbull High with special needs. And we do a lot of activities outside of the classroom. So we go on walks, we paint pottery, we go to the movies, we go to the mall, and it's very interactive. So we get to form bonds with a lot of the other students here at Trumbull High that we wouldn't normally form bonds with. And in the Connections Club, we work specifically with students with autism at Trumbull High, and it's directly after school. But it's also very interactive because we do a lot of arts and crafts, or we watch movies, or we also go on walks. And in the Connections program, that's actually what made me decide that I want to specialize in working with kids with autism. So these programs really helped me decide on what I want in my future, so they were very beneficial to me.
And what about you?
Well, something that I'll mention real quick is that the Career Center here at Trumbull High School introduced me to the Trumbull Police Department's Police Cadet Program, which is an outside organization separate from the high school. But I became very actively involved with that around the time that I was a freshman here at Trumbull High. And then that kind of tied into my experience here at school. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of what everybody's mentioned regarding clubs and organizations here at Trumbull High, it involves a lot of learning inside the building, and then you take that learning and you apply it elsewhere in mostly a competition is what I've heard a lot of. And so my experience with that is the forensics team here at GHS. I'm not a science-oriented person by any means, but I took a long shot with Mr. Miller, the science teacher here, and I joined the forensics team. And that kind of gave me some exposure to the more science investigative aspect of law enforcement, which has now shaped my thinking about college and post-college with law enforcement, how I want to look into the more investigative side. And so again, that was me taking another step and going into something that I wasn't totally familiar with, just to broaden my horizon, I suppose.
Deja, you guys kind of talked a little bit before about the programs and the clubs that you were in, but I'll take whichever one of you wants to go to the microphone first and go a little more in depth with the programs or clubs that you might be involved in here.
One program that I'm in that's not particularly in Trumbull High, but I was introduced to it through Trumbull High, is the ACE program, which is Architecture, Construction, and Engineering, as I mentioned earlier. And what's great about this program is it has the three fields that I mentioned, but I think when we pass by a construction site or something like that on the street, we just see it as more of a nuisance. And it's another thing where you don't realize how much goes into the field until you're talking to professionals who work in the field. And I've also seen even aspects that go beyond working directly in that, such as Mr. Amachero, who works in the tech ed department. He's one of the mentors there. So I really thought about whichever career I go into, as some of our speakers talked about, whichever career you go into, that doesn't necessarily mean you're stuck in that place specifically. So that's been really helpful for me to kind of calm down and see where I can go. And also, it talks about the fact that you can go into trade schools, not always represented as an option for people, but it's a huge option, especially for people who aren't as interested in the academic but more the hands-on. So the ACE mentorship program has really helped me to talk to people in the field and see where I can go, not just in the careers that they talk about, but in any career. So, thank you.
So another great club that I'm part of is the debate team, and like I said, coming into freshman year when I went to my first debate, so basically the format is around a 60 to 90 minute debate about a certain topic that you get that day, and you're arguing for a certain side of it. And my first debate, I was shaking, I had no idea what to say, and I had to get up there and give a 5-minute speech about something to do with politics. And what I really realized is that after the 60-minute period of basically arguing with the other team, telling them they don't know anything, what ended up was that lunch right after, I ended up sitting with that team, having a great laugh, and what it really taught me is that the value of teamwork, working with a partner, just collaborating with others, and just really getting your thoughts across to where you're trying to persuade a judge to agree with their side of the debate.
Okay, last question from me before we turn it over to the audience, and we're going to start with Deja, with you down at the end, and we're going to work ourselves all the way back down here to Marissa. So keep your responses to about 30 seconds to maybe a minute. But overall, how do you feel that the Trumbull Public Schools, in your case, is helping you prepare for your life behind these walls, and for the 4 graduates, how do you think that it helped you prepare?
I think the big thing at Trumbull High is it doesn't really matter who you are, what you're interested in. They just want to provide something for anyone. And just having that option and less stress about finding something that I had to find something specifically for my career, there were enough options that I didn't have to worry about that. And Trumbull High made them clear, so I really enjoyed that.
What I really loved about Trumbull High School and how it helped me find my path is that I really liked how outgoing the faculty was. And I'd like to thank Ms. Pavakova for helping me with the job shadowing, helping me find an opportunity at a local hospital for just to get to know the environment. And what I really like is that teachers are always willing to say after, help you. You can always have just an honest talk about life or anything you have a question about the teacher. And they're always willing to just spend their time, talk with you, and just help you along the path to success.
Trumbull High School is definitely preparing me for life after high school. I mean, I've had so many opportunities to gain experience in special education, like the Job Shadow program or the Kids for Kids Club or the Connections program. So I really feel prepared for life after high school, and I definitely credit all of that to Trumbull High School.
Yeah, not only do the clubs and organizations here let you explore avenues that you're interested in, but I'll use an example of the Thespian Society and the musicals and the fall plays here. Me personally, I've gotten exposure to business and talking to people in general, working on the production side of the musicals and the plays here. So kind of anything you get yourself into, if you really put something into it, you'll be able to take out more than you may expect going into it in the first place.
I think something that's really unique to Trumbull High School that benefited me a lot was that we here don't just have these clubs or these teams, like we really own them. I mean, so it's serious. I mean, so many of our teams, I mean, the We the People team, the mock trial team, are ranked and known nationally. And that's not just because of talent, because there's talent everywhere in the country. But it's because, you know, at some other schools that, you know, I've heard this through the kids that now come into our program. They say, yeah, you know, we had mock trial in high school. I don't know, everybody quit, and then there were 3 of us, and then the advisor quit. No, that's not how it is here. And there's this atmosphere of community where it's not just the advisors like Ms. Boland or Mr. August who give these programs everything. And they tell students what you're doing is important and what you're doing matters. It's the rest of the staff. It's the administration, the ACE Foundation, who provides funding and support and allows these events to occur and allows these programs to function that tell students what you're doing matters. And coming from someone who's really athletically challenged and was never really part of a sports team and ever, that was a really amazing thing to hear. And it's not just the administrators or the advisors, it's other teachers. I mean, as a part of a traveling team, sometimes I had to miss class, sometimes I had to miss work. And I didn't have teachers in my other classes coming out to me saying, what are you doing? It's a club, come to class. They say, that's really amazing, keep doing what you're doing. And that type of support just isn't found anywhere. And it wasn't found when I started running a student organization in college. But from the attitude that was instilled in me here, the attitude that said, this matters, that's something that I've carried on into college and have instilled in the people who will now be following me in leadership positions. And it has enabled me to help grow my program and get my university to realize that what we do matters.
This past semester, I've had the fantastic opportunity to work with Cornell Admissions as an admissions ambassador. And what that's taught me, seeing admissions from the other side, is that if you want to get where you're going, if you want to follow your interests, and if you want to get where you're applying, you need to be more than numbers. I said this today visiting with students, but wherever you're applying, or however good your scores are, you can have a 2,400 on the SAT, there are other people applying exactly with those same numbers. You need to be more than numbers. And I think that what we've all been speaking about today and what these programs here at Trumbull High School are a testament to is that they make you more than numbers. They personify your application. They set you apart. I've seen literally thousands of applications come in with exactly the same long list, 24 activities, and they have perfect scores on everything. But they're all the same. Nothing differentiates them from each other. Here, where people are able to talk about these very intricate details from people things they've learned and how they're able to apply it in an interview in life, or regardless of whatever their next step is. I think Trumbull High is well ahead of the game on that end, and really making these applicants people, or really making these employees people, not just numbers on a piece of paper like everyone else. So that's something you're going to find here at Trumbull High that you're really not going to find anywhere else in the country. And I'm glad to be a part of it.
besides the academic side, you know, for me, the business and the tech ed classes, mine was football. I played football here all 4 years, freshman through senior year. I was team captain my senior year. And my sophomore year, I started some varsity time. And it really, not the actual football playing, but the whole morale of the team. I'm a sophomore. I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. You have to respect others. You have to prove to your teammates who are going to trust you now, who are seniors and juniors, what you're capable of. When times get tough, what are you going to do? And I think that side of just having the team bonds, relationships with your the guys playing next to you, hard work. Coming here at 6:30 in the morning to practice on the turf. Run, whatever it is that you may do. I think the sports aspect of that for me, because I really didn't join any clubs, really actually helped me in the real world. I'm only 20 years old. Being an apprentice, I have to start at the bottom and eventually work my way up and gain the respect that I need. So for me, the athletic side, I think, really helped me.
Okay, last one. So I seriously, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, feel so grateful to have been a product of the Trumbull public school system. And I really hope, and I think if you guys don't feel that way now, especially when you graduate and start talking to your friends in your career, your college, you'll really realize that, I know this is a Dr. Tremaglio quote, but this is a place where special things happen. So I go to UConn, and I honestly really recommend, I'm sure a lot of you are considering it. It's a very relatively affordable and really highly ranked university that we're very fortunate enough to have in our state. And so every year, Trumbull High always sends a lot of people to UConn, and I always think it's so funny because I'll be reading the newspaper and I'll be like, oh, there's a Trumbull person doing some leadership thing, or oh, there's another Trumbull person who graduated like a few years before me getting some award or something. So really, Trumbull High does a great job of preparing everyone here for success, whether it's honestly like social, community success, involvement in your community and that feeling of fulfillment versus also academic success. We have a really great array of AP courses, which is something I really, if you find a subject that you're passionate about and confident in, I really recommend taking. So yeah, thank you everyone for, I guess we all agree. Thanks to everyone for being here tonight. I hope you got some insight. Obviously, everyone's path is different, but I hope that we were able to, shed some light and get you guys thinking. So, thank you.
We do have time to go to some question and answers. We need to hear from you. In addition to those of us here on the stage that are willing and ready and want to respond to some questions, also I want to mention that we have down in our front row also people that might be very relevant to your question who would be willing to respond. Mr. Garino, our high school principal, Mr. Emanuel, our C House principal. You heard about the entrepreneurial business classes. He taught those. He's also the DECA advisor. You heard about Ms. Belavacqua, the college and career transition counselor with the job shadowing, our department chair for guidance. We have with us, of course, Mrs. Kathy Hilzer, Mrs. Boland, Model UN advisor and social studies department, Mr. Pelligra, our media specialist here at Trumbull High, and from the middle school, one of our middle school social studies team leaders, Mrs. Alford, is with us. And Mrs. Alford will probably be the first one to say that, I think 6 key words that you heard recurring here tonight, a thread going through all of this were communication, critical thinking, creative problem solving, collaborative learning experiences, exploration, passion. Our performance-based learning projects focus on those all the time. I know that Mrs. Alford's probably smiling because she hears that from all of us all the time. So I'm going to turn this over to Dan Newman, who will be our moderator for questions and answers. Dan is the executive director of BEI, the Business Education Initiative, and he's a member of the board of directors along with me on the ACE Foundation, Academic Challenge for Excellence. So Dan, I think we're ready.
That's me out here in the middle of people. And I am here to ask anybody that has any questions to give you the microphone to have a chance to ask. Right here, how about that?
So I'll start with the former student population. So as you guys went up, either in high school or prepared yourself for high school, technology is such a key thing. So do you feel the school prepared you for the technological things that you need for the school? You know, the school right here uses textbooks, things of that nature. I don't see, we've recently moved here from out of state, so I don't see tablets, I don't see computers, I don't see netbooks that the students use on a regular basis. So as you went off to college or prepared for college, do you think you were prepared to enter the college environment? Because I'm probably sure at Fairfield University they're using computers everywhere, and at standard offices, they're at motor ports, they're doing that. So do you feel ready, prepared technologically to go off into college? And then I got a follow-up question for the other folks.
My answer on this might be a little bit outdated because I graduated in 2013, and when I came back to help out with the mock trial team, there were all little Chromebooks or something. So I'm not entirely sure how that is used now, just 3 years after I graduated. However, I find that a lot of times in college, there's really too much technology. You know, you can take notes in your classes, but you know, I have a lot of friends and people in my classes who use their technology not always for the benefit of learning, and the note-taking skills and learning techniques, like actually from a book with a pen and paper in front of me, that I learned here have been invaluable through college. I mean, I do type, thank you. I do type my notes just because sometimes they talk fast, but what I tend to do is I go back and make note cards. I have been making note cards since high school, maybe middle school, and I still do them. They're all over my desk at school, and I think that that's how you learn. And what I found is that my friends who tend to have more written notes out, that actually have like notebooks still and read the textbook, do a lot better from people who only follow along with the PowerPoints that professors post online, because that doesn't really help you learn that much. So using a pen and paper here is a good skill to learn and continue.
Yeah, so to build off, definitely agree with Nikki. The like studying techniques you develop here definitely carry over to college. More specifically, honestly, any career nowadays, even if it's not in the STEM field, requires like some technology proficiency. For example, so I would definitely say I got those skills from Trumbull High through extracurriculars. For example, I said earlier how I was editor-in-chief of my yearbook, and that helped me get a lot of software skills, such as Adobe InDesign, graphic design skills, that after graduation I really thought I never would use again. But then come last summer, I'm applying for a government internship, and on the list of skills, Adobe InDesign is listed. Other like programs I use through Yearbook for like graphic editing, and I was able to check those off, and the interviewer said they were very impressed because oftentimes, you know, political science people don't have those software skills. So I definitely say Trumbull High really broadened up that range, and again, that's something I didn't expect to pop up and be something so useful in a like internship interview 2 years later. So.
Thank you. And now for our folks that have been in the real world for a while. So, Tom, you said you give a resume 3 seconds. So, as a individual that's getting ready to go into college, I'm wondering, Dr. Gibson, how long do your folks that are reviewing applications give it? Is it 3 seconds? Is it 5 seconds? How long do they review, and what are the skills that they're really looking for on an application?
Yeah, and I have to confess, we have a separate admissions department, so I don't direct I take the students they give me. They spend a lot of time on those files, and they're looking for some of the things we've already talked about, the rigor in terms of academics, the activities, but also I think what Fred noted was what's distinct, what makes you stand out a bit, because if you're in, and Tom sees this with resumes, a lot of them start looking alike. What's the distinct part of that? But it is an art and a science in terms of admissions. You're trying to find a good fit with the school, right? Not just the top of the mark. You want a real mix of students, so you also want students that fulfill different niches that you haven't seen before. So it's a very careful process, I have to say. And I know from talking to the admissions counselors, they're very careful about wanting to have the fit be as good as possible. And from the student side, you also want the fit as good as possible. As Tom said, there's a lot more colleges out there than you can imagine. And so you need to really explore and find the one that's the right fit for you. Tom, do you want to add?
No, I think that's right. The business world is a little bit different. We had an accounting opening maybe 6 months ago. We got 1,500 applicants for that position. So we go through it. You can't spend a lot of time on it. So you've got to have, now that was a more experience, so you're looking for certain skill sets in the resume, and how you highlight and how you craft a resume is important. But for someone who's looking for an internship, it's a little bit different. What I'm looking for is a diversity of skills. Last year I had 4 Trumbull High School graduates as interns in my company, different specialties because they were studying different things in college. They all brought different skills in. It was a great experience for them. It was a great experience for us because they bring a certain energy and enthusiasm into the business world. And I want to see that in the resume. And it usually comes out in the kinds of things they're involved in, their GPA in terms of how they actually applying themselves in school. That's what we really look for. And we do interview them before we hire them as well. So then you have that interpersonal skills set that is so important for us as well. If you go on our recruiting website for Standard Motor Products, SMP, what you'll find is a video we did for the interns that last year. 2 of the people featured in that video were interns who had graduated from Trumbull High School, talking about their experience in the workplace. And I'll have to tell you that Trumbull High School does graduate some of the best interns we've had at Standard Motor Products. So we look for that.
We have a question over here now.
This question is more specifically for Mr. Tamarkin. On the little pamphlet, it said you did the agri-science program. And being an 8th grader, I have the opportunity to go into that program into high school. And you didn't really talk about it that much except for the FFA. And I wanted to ask if there was any real benefit I could take from it.
Challenge you to find something you can't get from it. It is a really, really interesting program because it doesn't take away from your Trumbull High School experience in any way, shape, or form. It only adds to it. Coming into high school, I didn't know that I wanted to be remotely involved with agri-science or with life science in general. But what it did is it gave me a perspective on life science in business, life science on a farm, life science in biotechnology. And I think it's beneficial for people who aren't even interested in the life sciences at all. I learned how to craft a resume. I learned how to walk into an interview. I learned how to public speak. The people that I met there, I'm still using as references in college for internships and things like that. It's a truly unique program that not many people have the opportunity to join. But I think it's also on par with any of the other organizations that we have here at Trumbull High School, with the exception that is your full day of classes there. You have 2 periods or 3 periods there a day. But I highly encourage you to check it out, as well as many of the other Trumbull High School opportunities we have.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Katie, do you have another one up there? I don't have anybody back here that has any questions. Oh, now he raises his hand, but I'm not near him. Here you go.
This is a 2-part question, mainly for the student panels. Those of you who are currently attending Trumbull High and those of you who are in college and your other careers, having a freshman in high school, how did you get beyond the personal obstacles of joining clubs? A lot of freshmen are hesitant because of the unknowns. Not sure, as many of you talked about, the uncertainties of certain clubs or your interest. What did you guys do to get sort of beyond that? Did you connect with people? How'd you make that first step to get involved? Because I'm sure it continued in college, that first step to get involved, if somebody could speak about that.
Oh, I'm going to take this one because, like I said, I had that problem where I literally passed up on the thing that I love most. I think that, first of all, things like this, like the fact that you guys are here, is really helpful because Marissa and I were talking, when we started Trumbull High School, we did not have this. and all of a sudden it was a bigger school, 2 floors, bigger people, I'm pretty sure. And it just all seemed very, very overwhelming. So a big part is definitely outreach and getting to hear from other students things that are big and important. I would really recommend just sitting down and looking at a list, and if you see something that spikes your interest, just go to the meeting and try it. And to not be afraid to try to just talk to the advisors, talk to people who have graduated from the program, talk to people who are currently in the program about what is really involved, because part of the reason I walked away is because I just didn't understand. And then because I didn't understand, I got overwhelmed, and I thought it was just not something that was for me or that I could do or that I'd even get to really have a role in. And then fortunately, a lot of these type team things do have a class associated with them. So that's very helpful in terms of, it really gets you right involved because during your school day. But really just try to listen, look around the school. I mean, the signs, the posters, the pictures, they're everywhere. So if you see something, just ask someone about it, because someone in the hall is proud of something that a club does. There's no organization or club here that you can't find someone that they don't want to talk about. If mock trial sounds interesting, I could be here for another hour. So just try to talk to people. That's the best advice I could give.
Yeah, and again, that's a question I hear a lot also from like my parents' friends, younger siblings. It obviously can be a bit intimidating for a freshman just to walk into a meeting for the first time. I think that's a very common held concern, but I really just echoing what Nikki says, a lot of times you just have to take the first step, and although that may be uncomfortable at first, I think once your son or daughter maybe joins the first club, it'll be easier to join others. Maybe he or she could bring a friend along to the club, but really I think it's just taking that first step to get involved that makes the rest easier. Really will increase their inclination to try more things, because that's really what it's all about, trying, exploring, just taking that first step. And then where that leads is really up to the student.
And adding on to that real quick, somebody mentioned earlier the community aspect here at Trumbull High School, and we're a big community, and with any club and organization, new members are not only encouraged but very much so accepted, because truly it's the student that makes the program what it is, and so no program here can run without the student involvement. And the second thing for anybody who may be incoming freshmen next year that aren't familiar with it, I know at the beginning of the year we have our club fair, where it's after school for about a half hour, and it's every club at Trumbull High School, or as many we can fit. Everybody sets up a little booth, and anybody can walk around real quick before they go to the bus or what have you, and look at what Trumbull High School really has to offer after school.
To add on to that, as a current student, as he mentioned, there's the club fair, which even as a sophomore was helpful, because you sign up for something one year and then you branch off into different interests in different clubs. And in freshman year, I signed up for 6 clubs, and there are 3 days to stay after. And the moment I left, I was just like, what did I do? There was no planning whatsoever, but you just see that there are so many things that interest you. And my original plan was just to walk in, maybe sign up for one club. But there's enough opportunities that you will find something that you want to do, and you'll quickly find somebody else who wants to. Because the school, I mean, you walk in as a freshman, it seems really big, which is intimidating, but use that to your advantage, because it's big, and that means that there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of people who will be interested in what you are.
Thank you.
If I could just make, not a student obviously, but from a parent perspective, my daughter was not an athlete. She wasn't that kind of person. She had an interest in the theater group, and so she did the spring musical. And what I found was that the students were amazingly welcoming to the freshmen who came on board there. Almost like the seniors, who were amazingly talented people too, took her under the wing. She loved every second of it. So don't be hesitant at all. From a parent's perspective, I saw her blossoming, not because of anything necessarily I did, but because the students are so welcoming and so enthusiastic about that particular club, that she absolutely fell in love with it. So, and I think that's true. I've seen that in the We the People team and the mock trial team as well, and I'm sure that's true of every club at THS.
We have another question over here.
So I'm going to be a freshman next year. I'm an 8th grader right now. And you guys were talking about scholarships. Is there something that you should start doing now, little, that can help you prepare for that?
Well, I would say really honing in on like good study skills. I think that's something that like really in middle school to high school could be a big adjustment, but if you start like developing those good skills now, I think you'll obviously thank yourself, and that obviously will result in higher grades if you're looking for an academic scholarship. So really just making sure, you know, whether it's like finding out how you best learn, whether it's like through note cards, verbal repetition, just kind of understanding what your style is, because obviously you're still young, but starting to get to know the best ways you study and how like that will help you get better grades.
I also, like Marissa, got a good scholarship into South Carolina, and my best advice to you is to not worry about that right now. The best thing that you can do to get a scholarship going into college is to just be you, and to do the types of things that we're saying. Yes, absolutely, start learning how to study, because if you get good grades, you'll get good scholarships. And beyond that, you know, the types of things that get you scholarships are really, I don't want to say building your resume, because that's what, you know, we have to worry about now, but just like building your skill set, building your interests, about what Dr. Gibson said about, you know, being interesting. If you have something that, you know, all these, you know, I talked to like some of the professors at my school, all they had to do was send a test score. That was it, test score and GPA. No, I wrote five essays to get into the South Carolina Honors College. And what did I get to write about? I got to write about mock trial, maybe 3 times. Got to write about a book that I read. So just if you learn about yourself, things that you like, books that you read, if you get involved and find something that you care about, and for the record, if you get involved with something here, chances are you can keep doing it in college. And if there isn't the club in college, they will definitely let you create one. So if you find something like that, that you can then tell these college admissions boards about, say, this is what I do, this is what I love, this is what I want to bring to your university, they're going to want to get you to your university. And aside from a few specific things, a lot of these scholarships don't always necessarily require, you know, individual essays or separate applications. A lot of times the schools will just give you money based on what they're looking for. So the best thing is just to be you.
Just adding on to that is that something that I didn't know until this year actually, is that you can go into the College Career Center and you can ask the advisors there for scholarships about basically anything. They can set you up with scholarships for like your heritage or anything like that, anything that you're interested in, which is like really helpful. And I wish I had known that sooner, so I'm glad that I know it now.
We have another one over here.
I have a question directed for Mr. Tesoro. You said that forming relationships and connections with people would prove beneficial for you in the future. How do you take that first step to form connections with people and actually start talking with them?
Well, the first thing, that's a great question. There's several ways of doing it. We've talked about joining clubs and developing those relationships. The job shadowing is an excellent way of doing something like that as well, too. At my company, we sponsored a trip from Trumbull High School to my office in New York, and I think we had 15, 20 students, can't remember the name of it, the number rather, but they met dozens of people, took their business cards. Next way, ask questions. You see an adult, you see me, I'm gonna have some business cards later. Take it, give me a call, I'll answer your questions. Identify yourself as a Trumbull High School student, and I'll talk about anything you like to talk about from an academic or business standpoint. The key thing is not to be shy and to advocate for yourself. You go in, you meet somebody, go to clubs, go to meetings, whatever. Start talking to people. You're going to be surprised how quickly your network grows. So all it is just taking that first step and, you know, just saying, I'm going for it. Go for it.
Yeah, just to add a little to that, students have no idea how powerful you are. People like to talk to students. They like to talk to high school students. They like to talk to college students. And so I totally agree. It does take that first step, but very few people will turn down the opportunity to talk to a student, and mostly is asking questions and finding out about what's their story. And you'll learn a lot from that story. And people really like to talk about it. So I think it's not raising it in your mind, this is a huge thing to develop a relationship. It's just asking a couple of questions. It's just meeting someone. And then that sounds a little more easy than kind of I need to develop a big relationship.
Yeah, and the funny part is, if you go to talk to someone, say in the business world during the job shadowing, you ask them to talk about their career, they'll talk all day to you. People love talking about how they got where they are and the experiences they had. So as a young person, they're looking for the opportunity to help you get going. Nothing makes me happier than to see young people like this on my left beginning their careers and knowing that I'm retiring in 5 years, they got 40 years of work ahead of them. Putting that aside, it gives me great satisfaction to see that. Most people are like me. They want to help you. Take advantage of it.
I have a couple of questioners on this side, but before I hand the microphone over, if I could have Mrs. Bavakwa stand up. We're talking about job shadowing. For anybody here in the high school who's in the high school, or parents who want to tell your son or daughter, if you have an interest in seeing what it looks like to work in a company or a kind of a job that they're very interested in but don't really have much exposure to, that's the lady to go see. She will arrange it for you. Okay? Here we go. Young lady?
Hello. So I think my question really only applies to Nicole, but you go to the University of South Carolina, so that's not very close to Connecticut. Do you think it's been beneficial going so far away from home?
Actually, yes. And I've really gotten to learn a lot about myself because I was one of the people, in high school, I said, I want to go to the South. And then I went to the South, and then I decided I love it down here. I really don't think I want to stay in the South. And now I've just kind of gotten really to see a different part of the country. Obviously, America's America, everybody's the same, go America. But, it's just, there's a lot of differences in terms of, just how people have been raised, how people have grown up, and getting out of my little Trumbull, Connecticut little shelter zone. It's really kind of opened my eyes to different perspectives on different issues, and it's really helped me learn a lot more about myself leaving where I've always been. And now I don't mean to scare any parents by encouraging your kids to go far away or anything, but because I do come home a lot. But I found it really beneficial. I've met a lot of really different people, made a lot of really amazing friends. I do get homesick, absolutely. I'm very close with my family. But I think overall it's been a really, really beneficial experience, and I would not go anywhere else.
Thank you, Nikki. Young man has a question.
This question's for the student panel. I wanted to ask if you could do sports and clubs at the same time.
Sports and clubs at the same time.
Depending on the sport and the club, I'm going to say probably not. I know for the sports side, coaches and especially your teammates, they're going to want to see you dedicate your life pretty much to the sport. For football, I had a pure passion for it, but it was every single day. It was from, when school started, it was after school from 3 o'clock till 6:30. Every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, game Friday. Saturday, Sunday usually off, and Monday the same exact thing. The second the season ended, we were in the weight room right after school till 5 o'clock, lifting and conditioning. And then this, all the way up until June, where spring ball came. And then summer, it was three or four mornings a week. So I think a lot of coaches, because Mr. August is a coach, I think coaches want to see that dedication. And I think it's also very important from your teammates to see that they get the same dedication. And for the clubs, it's the same exact thing. They want to see that you're going to be there at the meetings, when you're supposed to be there, participate when you're supposed to participate, and just give everything that you have pretty much for it.
Football is undoubtedly a large commitment, but I was able to find roles in both, and I think that depends on what you're willing to commit and how much time you're willing to put in. Many of the high school sports are confined to one season. Football is not that way. I believe there are a couple other sports that way as well. But I was captain of the varsity swim team, and that was a winter sport. So in the winter, I did have to take a little bit more time for the sport, obviously, and tone down everything else. But in the fall and spring, I was full swing in everything else I was doing. So I think as long as you learn how to manage your time and you don't jump in too heavy early on, if you don't over-involve yourself, I definitely think you can make that happen, especially what your unique interests are. So I definitely say that it depends on your interest and the person. But I'd actually encourage you to do so.
Yeah, I definitely think you could do sports and club at the same time. I'm part of the varsity tennis team, and our season goes from around March to around the end of May. But I still find the time to play tennis outside of school over break. And most of the clubs, or a lot of the clubs in Trumbull High are competition clubs, so teachers are very understanding about if you have sports or if you have matches certain days. So for me, it worked out really well with the teachers where they were very lenient in that they allowed me to miss meetings and that I was able to do the work that I had to at home and just compete over the weekend when we had competitions.
Yep, and just to build off of that, I definitely agree. It depends how much time you want to put into it. I was captain of soccer and track, which let my winter be a lot more open, which allowed me to take on more club roles. But also I would keep in mind when I was with soccer and track, me and my other captains, we always made sure to do almost like club-like community service activities. For example, we did like a pink night to raise money for breast cancer in October, and then for track, we did a 5K for MS. So really, you're going to get like both of those experiences. And I think if you really want to join a club and do a sport, I wouldn't stop yourself. And again, sports, not just are they competition, but they are also good relationship building, team building skills you'll gain from that.
And I'd just like to quickly add, as the We the People coach at Trumbull High, about a third of my team this year are active in sports and are usually captains of one of the sports teams, if not multiple. So you definitely can balance them. It's just a matter of, I would say, time management skills is the most important thing. There are months where We the People is very, very intense and they're spending a lot of time with their unit preparing, but they're still able to do their sports. So it's just all about time management.
Yeah, I'll add on to that just as the head of mock trial, but I also coach basketball here, and I also am a varsity baseball coach here. So I do both sides of the coin, and you can most certainly do both of them, but understand that every decision you make sometimes has consequences. So there is time management issues, and if you do make a decision, sometimes you have to give other things up. And coaches on both sides, me being both ways, have, we are willing to work around schedules as long as you are going to put in your effort. We are willing to, help you out as long as you're going to help out with us as well, too. I'll go even a step further to say, too, I know a lot of times I get questions with regards to mock trial about the play. And that can you do our academic club or our academic competition club and also be in the play, and you most certainly can do that as well too. We've had the luxury, sometimes some of our best mock trial kids are our best actors at the school, and the last 2 years we've had Annie Stachura, who was one of the leads last year, and then before her Emily Richowski, who was a lead in Rent when that was 2 years ago. So just to give you an idea that you can do it all, but as Ms. Boland said, and as all the students have said up here, it definitely is a time management issue. And the last thing I'll say is that and Freddie commented on it before, that you get these people with these resumes and they have all these things on them, all these activities, and I find that a lot of kids at this school, especially freshmen and sophomores, get involved in too much. They try too much. They put too much on their resume because they want to be involved in anything, and what ends up happening is they're not good at any one thing. They're okay. They're average. Whereas if they were to focus on 2 or 3 things that they can be really, really great at, that's what jumps off a page. If you've got 15, 16 different things and you're not so good at any of them, I would personally rather be really good at a couple things. So I know there's a couple of creators out there and people who are coming up. Don't be so quick to get involved in everything. Okay, understand that it is a time management issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one little add-on to that. He's absolutely right, especially from the college admissions standpoint. What makes you memorable is you're able to tell a story about something you did or prove that you were able to earn something or achieve something. And that's just not possible when you're trying to blanket cover all of these activities and events and still keep up your GPA. So I can tell you from admissions counselor standpoints that the students that they remember and the applicants that they admit are ones that were able to dedicate themselves to a very few activities strongly and independently, rather than just attempt to throw everything into play. So it's a good thing to keep in mind.
My assessment out here in the audience is that we pretty well have used up our audience questions. We have lots of people needing to get home. Any concluding remarks from anybody on the panel or anyone else sitting down in the front row, Mr. Guarino, anyone else? Otherwise, any wanted to close the program.
I just have one thing to say. If anyone wants my business card, come up and see me. I'll give it to you. I always look. I recruit early. So if you're an 8th grader, take my card. I'll remember you.
Also, even if you don't have any older siblings, I'm an oldest child, so I didn't really have anyone directly to ask questions. But all of us, and I'm sure you have like family, friends in your community, if you start asking them questions, I'm sure they're very enthusiastic to respond. So really just like employ your resources, even your just personal resources. If you want any of our like emails, we'd be really excited. If anyone's going to tour UConn, hit me up. I would love to show you around. So thank you.
Eric, if you would hold up the 2 flyers, if you would hold up the 2 flyers on the table by the back door are bits of information about the Business Education Initiative and the ACE Foundation. If you'd like to grab those on your way out, give you a little bit of bedtime reading. Anything else we can help you with, please be in touch. Dr. Chelfie?
I'd like to thank Don, Tom, Mr. August, Mrs. Bowen, certainly our panelists, our students that are graduates and current students, all of our educators that are here, and the sponsors. We have had with us tonight members of our Board of Education here, members of the Business Education Initiative, and members of the Board of Directors of ACE. So finally, thank you so much for coming. We really enjoyed having you. Thank you.